In the ancient world, there was a fate worse than death, the erasure of a name. Without an heir, his property and memory vanished. For the family of Elimelech, the fire is down to its last dying ember. To understand how a family comes back from that brink, we have to look at the ground where it happened. These are the hills and terraced fields of Bethlehem. At the edge of town sits the city gate. In ancient Israel, the gate served as the courthouse, the stock exchange, and the town square, all rolled into one. A wealthy landowner named Boaz walks up to this gate and takes a seat. He pulls aside exactly 10 elders of the city, sitting them down to form a legally binding quorum. They are waiting for one specific person, the nearer kinsman. He is the single living relative who holds a prior legal claim over Boaz. What happens next is a dusty property negotiation. In this moment, the survival of a single family line rests entirely on a hyper-local legal dispute. Boaz starts with a straightforward proposition. Naomi, the widow of their relative Elimelech, is selling a parcel of family land. He offers the nearer kinsman the first right to buy it. The kinsman jumps at the chance. "I will redeem it," he says. It is a simple real estate transaction that immediately expands his personal wealth. If the gavel falls here, the story ends. The kinsman absorbs the land. Boaz loses his legal standing. Ruth remains destitute, and Elimelech's lineage is extinguished. Boaz knows exactly what he is doing. He lets the kinsman take the bait, positioning his opponent for the real legal maneuver. The trap snaps shut. Boaz clarifies the terms. Buying the field from Naomi also requires acquiring Ruth the Moabitess to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. This diagram breaks down ancient Israelite inheritance law, which operates on two separate tracks. On one side, land acquisition is simple. You buy a field and your estate grows. The other side, bloodline preservation, comes with a heavy caveat. If you marry the widow to provide an heir, that new child eventually inherits the land. You spend your money, but the property ultimately goes to the revived lineage. The nearer kinsman panics. He realizes that financing a new heir for Elimelech will drain his resources and split his own estate. He immediately backs out, stating, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own inheritance." To finalize his withdrawal, they execute a highly specific ancient custom. The kinsman publicly removes his shoe and hands it to Boaz. In ancient Israel, this acts as the physical, binding signature transferring his right of redemption. Without drawing a sword or raising his voice, Boaz navigates a labyrinth of customary law to force his rival to voluntarily step aside. Holding the shoe, Boaz turns to the 10 seated elders and the growing crowd at the gate. He makes a formal declaration. He has purchased everything that belonged to Elimelech, and he has acquired Ruth to be his wife. The elders respond immediately. They shift from silent adjudicators to vocal participants, confirming together, "We are witnesses." They follow this with a massive pronouncement. They pray that Ruth, an outsider from Moab, will be like Rachel and Leah, the two matriarchs who built the house of Israel. That blessing carries deep geographical weight. Just outside the limits of Bethlehem sits Rachel's tomb. The elders are linking the young widow standing before them directly to the revered matriarch buried in their own soil. A transaction that started with a technical debate over land deeds concludes as a joyous, community-wide celebration of restoration. The focus moves away from the noise of the public square and into the quiet of a new home. Boaz and Ruth are married, and shortly after, they welcome a son. The narrative resolution centers on Naomi. The woman who returned to Bethlehem empty, grieving the loss of her husband and her own sons, now sits with her new grandson resting in her arms, acting as his nurse. The local women gather to name the boy Obed. They tell Naomi that her daughter-in-law, who stood by her through sheer poverty, has proven more valuable to her than 7 sons. The threat of erasure that hung over them is gone. The family line that was nearly cut off has been secured. But the text does not stop at a happy domestic ending. It pulls back to reveal the official genealogy, looking decades down the corridor of history. This family tree tracks the generations downward. The line passes from Pharez, through Salmon, to Boaz, and into his son Obed. These final generations reveal why this union matters. Obed fathers Jesse, and Jesse fathers King David. The survival of the most famous king in biblical history relied entirely on a quiet morning at a city gate. A simple act of legal integrity and steadfast loyalty laid the literal foundation for Israel's greatest royal dynasty.